Hello everybody, and welcome to Pawn Power's YouTube channel. This video is geared toward those of us that play the U.S. Powerball lottery and are looking for ways to help level the playing field. With odds of nearly 300 million to 1 against selecting a winning sequence of pick numbers, it would be wise to consider any methods that we can develop to improve our odds. If you have done any research on this, you've likely had to wade through the hordes of systems out there that declare their system as the best in the field. Almost all of these systems are using logic that is referred to as hot versus cold ball numbers and is based on how often particular ball numbers have been found within the winners list. The better theories are based on the fact that random processes tend to dissipate order and the winning numbers will be spread across the spectrum of possibilities. The longer the system progresses, the more dilute the mixture of numbers becomes. The thinking is, since the winning ball numbers eventually even out, numbers that have not been drawn as often as the others are overdue and are likely good bets. While the hot-cold method is in fact better than no strategy at all, even within the best of these systems, their logic can help you predict one or two winning ball numbers here and there, and really isn't much of a comprehensive strategy. When using hot-cold number attributes as your only tool, your success ratio will be just slightly better than the results you would get with no strategy at all. Some systems use what they call secret proprietary algorithms. These schemes, and I do mean schemes, are trying to make you believe that their system is so powerful that it needs to be kept secret. So how would you know what's going on under the hood when you cannot observe the methods used? I think we all know what the real secret is. As anyone with any analytical insight will tell you, the easiest way to improve your odds is to buy more lottery tickets. If you purchase 5 sets of unique pick number sequences, your 300 million to 1 odds improves to 60 million to 1. Still a very steep hill to climb. Many folks get involved with friends or co-workers to pool their resources and purchase 20, 30 or more bets as a group. Of course, any winnings will then need to be shared among the group, and this is acceptable as most of us would be happy with just $1 million in winnings. So, is there a verifiable system out there that can greatly improve our odds without forcing us to buy large quantities of lottery tickets? This video explores a currently little-known application called the Pawn Power Numbers Assistant that can increase your odds of winning the Powerball lottery by as much as a factor of 30 without requiring us to purchase 30 lottery tickets. While the app offers several distinct tools that should be applied to your analysis efforts coherently, in this video we're going to cover only the most basic level just to get your feet wet. Future videos will include several other tools offered in this application. You can also visit the website at pawnpower.net for more information. This is the Pawn Power Numbers Assistant, and it is a relatively newcomer to the lottery analysis market. This application is specifically designed for the U.S. Powerball drawings. It is a collection of tools that can be used to analyze the Powerball lottery and offer some sound strategies for improving your odds of winning. There's no blind faith in some black magic proprietary algorithm or handfuls of cryptic mathematical terms indiscriminately thrown together to razzle-dazzle the user. The methods used by these tools are clearly displayed within each module so you know exactly what is going on. The common sense processes from each module complement each other and can be employed manually for those who want full control over their selections. The program also offers automatically generated sets of proposed pick numbers using the same tools for users that are not interested in the details. It's important to mention here that this program is designed for use on a desktop or laptop computer and is not intended for use on a small display such as a smartphone or a tablet. A screen width of at least 7 inches is recommended. At its most basic level is the activity listing module under charts and graphs. This module displays a simple view of the winning numbers history. The data used to build this chart comes from a Powerball winning numbers file that is stored on the user's computer. We'll start this module at the first record of our Powerball history. The winning numbers for this drawing are displayed in the record data panel, top center. Spanning the body of this page are 5 columns, each arrayed with numbered cells. In this mode, each cell represents a white ball number. The cell numbers that are highlighted in gold flag the winning numbers for each displayed drawing and mirror the drawing numbers displayed in the record data panel. The Powerball drawings of November 1997 used only 49 balls, so we see only 49 cells.
You can navigate through the winning ball's history by using the navigation panel. Here we have navigated to the next winning sequence by clicking the Up button in the navigation panel. The record data panel displays the new winning numbers, and those numbers are highlighted in gold within the columns. As we go up to this record, you'll notice that there is now a 1 posted on the right side of each of the previously winning cells. Each time one of these cells takes a hit, so to speak, we will increment this counter. This portion of each cell will track how frequently each ball number has been in the winner's circle. And for now, we'll call this the ball number's hits counter. Also notice a value of 30 has been posted on the left side of those previous winners. This side of each cell contains a value that we'll call the activity counter. We will decrease this value for each following consecutive drawing until that same cell takes another hit, at which point this value will be reset to 30. If the cell goes beyond 30 drawings without taking a hit, this activity counter will change color to red as it goes into negative values. As we scroll through the history, these values will keep us informed about which ball numbers have been winners in both the long term, by the hits counters, and in the short term, by the activity counters. Next, we'll scroll ahead to see how these values build. Here at record 111, we see ball number 1 in the first column has 10 hits. The activity counter value of 19 tells us that 11 drawings have passed since ball number 1 was a winner. In the fourth column, we see ball number 38 has an activity counter of -7. So 37 drawings have passed without a win for ball number 38. Generally, for the white balls, these cells with negative activity counters do not last long. With 5 balls being drawn on each drawing date, if there were no repeats, every ball on this page would be hit within 10 drawings, and the activity counters values would range from 20 to 30. These negative activity counter values are pointing out the most overdue ball numbers in the short term. Meanwhile, the hits counters are keeping us informed of each ball number's long-term activity. The display mode can shift the display data for the red balls by clicking the ball color in the record data panel. As there is only one red ball selected for each drawing, the activity counter values will show a lot more of the negative values. The green cells at the base of each column offer some very helpful data here. Column 1, for example, shows 31 hits to this first column within the displayed range. The middle value of 28.2% displays the percentage of drawings at column 1 contained the winning Powerball. The value of -2 on the left side of this cell tells us that 2 drawings have passed without this column containing a winning Powerball. The lower this value becomes, the more likely it is that column will contain the next winning red ball number. Anyone that has studied the numbers will concede that using strategies based on hot-cold numbers is indeed a very weak strategy. You may be correct that a certain number or group of numbers hasn't been drawn in quite a while, and since the numbers do eventually even out in their activity, we should expect these numbers to materialize on the winners list. What we don't know is exactly when these expected numbers will come up as winners. Here's a classic example of how betting on hot-cold numbers can lead you down the proverbial path. Record number 559 shows the red ball number 24 with an activity counter of -263. This means that 293 drawings have passed without red ball number 24 coming up as a winner. Now, if you started betting on this ball back when its activity counter value was -50, you would have spent over $400 betting on this ball as part of your predictions. When it finally came up as a winner 213 drawings later, you would reap the $4 or so from your pursuit of this ball number. It's hardly a wise strategy. However weak the theory of hot and cold ball numbers is, it must be included in any strategy. We just need to place it very low on the list of priorities. The greatest asset on this page is derived from what we call activity patterns. While this may initially sound like a nonsense factor, bear with me while we examine where these activity patterns can lead us. These activity patterns are constructed as the number of hits in each column laid out consecutively. For example, this page is showing 2 hits in column 1, 2 hits in column 2, no hits in column 3 and 4, and 1 hit in column 5. Laying out the number of hits in each column consecutively, we can construct an activity pattern of 22001, where each of the 5 digits represents each of the 5 columns and describes the number of hits in the corresponding column. Okay, sounds a little silly, I know. Well, it sounds silly until we scroll through the history and keep track of which patterns occur most often. Amazingly, 40 to 50% of the winning activity patterns are encompassed within just 17% of the possibilities. Said another way, nearly half of all winning sequences have activity patterns that are found within just 21 of the 126 possible activity patterns. This means that if you construct your pick numbers using these preferred patterns as a template, you will have 1 chance in 21 of using a winning pattern nearly every other drawing. Your odds of success improve dramatically if you are laying out your picks using the patterns that win most often and avoid those patterns that very rarely win. An overview of these activity patterns is what we'll look at next. This is the Activity Patterns module. Here we can see exactly which activity patterns are winners most often. There are 7 groups of patterns listed within the 5 columns on this page. Each group is uniquely color-coded. The groups are further divided into cells that display every possible activity pattern. These patterns represent the same activity patterns that are displayed in the activity listing chart that we looked at earlier. This chart is used to track these patterns over a period of time and can help us identify the most likely patterns to occur in general, as well as those likely to wind up in the winner's circle soon. Each pattern shares a common trait with the others in its group. For example, group number 1, violet, which consists of just one single activity pattern, contains 5 ones, or has an activity pattern of 11-1-11. This represents an activity listing chart where there is 1 winning ball number in each column. Group number 2, dark green, consists of all patterns with 1 0, 1 2, and 3 ones. This represents patterns where 3 columns had 1 winner and 1 column had 2 winners. Group number 3, blue, contains all patterns with 1 1, 2 zeros, and 2 2s, and so on. You can scan through this module just as we did in the activity listing using the navigation panel at the bottom of the display. The winning activity pattern is marked with the gold highlight. As in the activity listing, there are hits counters on the right and activity counters on the left in each cell. Due to the lower turnover within this chart, the activity counter value is set to 70 for the winning pattern, rather than 30 as in the activity listing chart. At the base of each group is a total cell that contains 3 values. On the right side of each total cell are the total hits per group. The value in the middle of each total cell displays the percentage of drawings that the group has contained a winning pattern. The left side of each total cell contains a value that we'll call the group activity meter. When a cell takes a hit, the group activity meter for the containing group will be incremented by 1 if its current value is greater than 0. If it is less than 0, it will be set to 1. All other group activity meters will be decreased by 1 if its current value is less than 0. If it is greater than 0, it will be set to -1. As a result, any group activity meter values that are greater than 0 display how many consecutive hits the group has received. If less than 0, it displays how many consecutive drawings have passed without this group receiving a hit. As with all charts and graphs, these values reflect the status within the current scan range, which is displayed in the range control at the bottom left of the display. In both the activity listing chart and this activity patterns chart, the values are posted 1 record behind the currently displayed drawing record. This way we can see the values that were in place as each cell becomes a winner and help us get a feel for what values are typically associated with the winners. Looking at the values in the total cells, it's easy to pick out patterns that win a great majority of the time. Pattern 11-1-11 in Group 1 has received 137 hits within the displayed scan range and rates 5.1% of the total hits. That's only 2.5% less than Groups 5, magenta, 6, light green, and 7, orange, combined, and those groups involve 45 different patterns. Group number 2, dark green, snagged 1,104 hits and commands over 40% of the total activity. Between groups 1 and 2, we can account for nearly half of all the activity. To state the obvious, if you choose your patterns from this first column exclusively, you'll be within the winning groups on average every other drawing. If you include group 3, which carried 28.2% of the winners, you'll be within striking distance almost 75% of the time, although that more than doubles the number of patterns that you need to choose from. Based on this information, patterns from the last 3 groups, magenta, light green, and orange, should never be used for your pick numbers. As the totals plainly show, the list is laid out with the most likely groups first. Most of the activity will be within the first 3 groups, with the bulk of that within groups number 1 and number 2. You can use the group activity meters and group percentages to predict the next group to receive a hit. It's important to mention gut instinct here. Not everything can be boiled down to an equation. You can greatly increase your odds of selecting a winning pattern simply by avoiding those patterns that very rarely come up. Beyond a doubt, pattern 11-111 is the most likely pattern on the page, and it maintains that status throughout the Powerball history. The Sort Display button below initiates a dialog that allows you to sort this display by activity counters or by hits. We will sort the cells by activity counters. You have the option to sort this one page only or to sort all pages. If you select Sort All Displays, the display will be resorted as each new record scrolls in as you scan through the history. The cells are now sorted by their activity counters, with each group being sorted independently. The cells with the greatest activity counter values have been pushed to the bottom of each group. Now, as you scan through the history, you can easily determine roughly which values have been recent winners based on what area of the column they occupy without having to quantify the numerical data in your head. We can limit the scope of which records are displayed by selecting a single group to be the focus of our scan. The Outline Pattern Groups button initiates a dialog in which we can specify which group that we want to display exclusively. This allows us to focus our attention on a single group and sidestep the distractions from the activity in other groups on the page. Ultimately, you'll be making your activity pattern selection decisions based on what the patterns chart looks like after the last drawing in the current history file has been displayed. Here we've navigated to the last record in the history, or what was the last record at the time this video was produced. While we're here, let's point out another view of the same data. The Bar Graph button brings up a bar graph display of the same data as the current page. Here it is plainly visible which pattern groups get the majority of the activity. The red bar at the left side displays the activity data for activity pattern 11-111 in the first pattern group. The next chunk of data represents pattern group 2. From there, the activity drops off considerably. It's fair to say that patterns represented in the right half of this graph are seldom worth betting on. The white bar displays the winning pattern for the currently displayed drawing. If you want to interrogate the graph for other patterns, you can click any of the bars in the graph, and the click bar will change color to white. The Outline Detail panel will display the associated hits count and activity counter values represented by the clicked bar. When preparing for the next upcoming drawing, we need to go beyond the displayed data for the last history record. We do this by clicking the Up button one more time, which will push all of the data to the furthest point possible. All hits counters and activity counters have been updated as far as they can go, and there is no highlighted pattern and no winning ball numbers to be displayed. Those will be determined by the next winning set of ball numbers. Once you have determined the most likely activity patterns to come up next, you can go to the activity listing chart and select your pick numbers that lay out on that chart with the same patterns. By incorporating your predetermined patterns with insights on likely ball numbers that the activity listing provides, you'll essentially have two strategies working together. If you prefer a more randomized approach, you can also go to the Random Number Selection module and plug your selected activity patterns into the Patterns control box so that your random number selections are built around your specified patterns. A very novel mix of control and random luck. Probably the most valuable data you can gather from this module come from the totals at the base of group number 2 and 3. These two group activity meter values accumulate in a very predictable manner and will guide you to the pattern group most likely to contain the next winning pattern. Observing the drawings data from the past will clearly show that these values seldom drop below -5. If you see that either of these pattern groups have a group activity meter value below -4, it's a fairly safe bet that the next drawing or two will have a winning pattern that falls into that group. Follow up by using other data tools available to help you narrow it down to the few best patterns. If the last few drawings have had winning patterns that were obvious best picks as far as activity counters or hits values go, you may want to aim more for those patterns that fall midway between the highest and lowest values. Once again, watching the previous drawings will help to give you a feel for which way to go. Other modules in this application that complement this module include the Activity Patterns Analysis in Scans and Analysis, and Activity Patterns Line Graph in Charts and Graphs.
The bottom line is, go ahead and play the hot or cold numbers when selecting your picks. It helps us out now and then. Just don't put too much faith in that method. To really affect an advantage, you need a much more comprehensive strategy. The analysis tools used in this app can provide you with insights that you would likely never realize otherwise. The interactive charts and graphs make it easy to evaluate the current state of the numbers and help you make relevant decisions instead of relying on dumb luck. The automated selection process makes it extremely fast and easy for those of us with limited time or energy to devote to the process to acquire some exceptionally smart picks. As the program can print your picks directly on your state's official Powerball playslip, you can run the analysis and have the printed playslip in your hand in just a couple of minutes. Remember that you can improve your odds by merely purchasing more lottery tickets. But once that drawing is passed, the advantage is gone, and what was once your money is now theirs. With the valid system for improving your odds, you can reap the improved odds advantage every time you play without spending a small fortune on lottery bets. Improving your odds by a factor of 30, you're looking at odds of 10 million to 1 for a single Powerball bet. If you routinely buy 5 pick sequences when you play, the odds are now 2 million to 1. It's not a slam dunk, but definitely good enough to make it worth playing the Powerball lottery. Part of playing wisely includes not betting money that you cannot afford to lose. No system can guarantee a win. If it does, you know it's a scam. Enjoy the games and good luck. Click the link in the description to the Pawn Power website for more, and thanks for watching.